I live in a very friendly community in Sydney, Australia. Almost everyone knows everyone else and gets along really well. We've been here for over 20 years now, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. Firstly, my wife is blind. She's a bit famous, both for being a successful medical practitioner in the area and because she's done a lot of public speaking on blindness and has been featured in a few ads with her guide dog. Around 10 years ago, a new family moved in about 10 houses down from us. It consists of entitled mom, kids, and poor dad. They obviously own the new franchise of a fairly well-known Australian desert chain, as they have the company van in their driveway whenever the hard-working dad happens to be home. I'm guessing he worked 13, 15-hour days, 6-7 days a week. Poor guy. My wife likes to go for walks around the area with her guide dog. It's her main form of exercise and a way for her to bump into and chat with the members of the community who know and like her. At the time, our daughter was still a baby and in a prom, so my wife towed the prom behind her when she walked. That was actually the subject of one of the ads she was in. As she walks past this house, their dog runs out and attacks her guide dog. She was on her own, but fortunately another neighbor saw it and pulled the dog away while she went home. She tells me about it, but we think, well, they're new here and maybe one of the kids let the dog out. It's illegal to have a log-off lead anywhere in public in Sydney other than certain designated parks and beaches. A couple of days later, the same thing happened again. This time the dog ran all the way to our house from theirs and attacked her dog. Fortunately, I heard her scream, came out and dragged the dog off her. This time I went over to the neighbor's house to complain about their dog. Hi there, I live up the road and your dog keeps attacking my wife's guide dog. Why is this my problem? The mom asks me. You realize that it's illegal for your dog to be outside your yard off leash, don't you? My kids like playing out in the front with the dog. Well, can you please get a gate? Your dog shouldn't be running loose on the road. Maybe your wife shouldn't be out on the road? At this point, I realized this was a waste of time, so I returned home and we called the police. Remember, wife blind, well-known community member, and very strict dog laws? The police come over and we tell them the story. They take notes and say that her actions constitute assault on my wife, not just breaking the law by letting their dog out. They asked if we would like to press charges. We say no, but can you talk to her about not letting their dog out of the yard? They agree and say they'll further warn her that if they get another complaint of this sort, the dog will be seized and euthanized. We also have strict laws about vicious animals. A few days later, my wife wants to go for another walk, but she's still a bit shaken by the two attacks, so she asked me to come with her. As we walk past the neighbor's house, the entitled kids are in the front yard. When they see us, they immediately lie on the ground and play dead. I notice the mom watching and ask what's going on. She says, well, if you're going to get our dog killed, you might as well get our kids killed as well. A few days later, our doorbell rings. I answer, and the man there introduces himself as the entitled neighbor's husband, the kind dad. He says that one of their direct neighbors saw what was going on with his wife, kids, and their dog and told him about it. He apologized profusely for what his wife and children have been doing and says it will never happen again. He seemed like a very nice, if exhausted, guy. I said that this is a close community and everyone likes to get along. The dad replied that he could see that. Flash forward to maybe 2 months later and we noticed that the house is up for sale and we never see the company van in the driveway. It turns out that they were going through a divorce and had to sell the house after being there less than a year, and the business to split things up. I'm not saying the incident with my wife caused the divorce, but I'm sure it contributed to it. Unfortunately, he's working so hard all the time to let his entitled wife bring up 3 entitled kids. They're going to face some hard knocks in the future. Back around the subject of this story is my mother. For the sake of this story, I'll call her Amber. She's in her late 70s and works for a women's clothing store which caters specifically to older clientele. She's been working for this particular company for some 20 years now. The manager of the store is the absolute epitome of a Karen, so let's call her Karen. Extremely entitled, short-haired, chubby, and a blatant backstabber. Because the store is staffed by mostly older women, cliques tend to form. It's basically high school. Yes, older women can be that petty, and naturally Karen has her own cronies. During periods where no one is in the store, there also tends to be a ton of gossip, important for later. The assistant manager, let's call her Jackie, is also one of Karen's lackeys. If Karen does something, then Jackie isn't far behind, etc. Amber is a bit of a ball buster, and she has zero tolerance for garbage in her personal life. Over the years, she has tried to stay impartial when it comes to her work, however, because to her it's all about professionalism. It also helps that she's been the top seller for her district for some 10 years running, despite working part-time. Karen and Jackie absolutely hate her for it. So much so that Karen routinely schedules her for hours, which are not especially good. Despite this, though, Amber still has her loyal clientele, and she always comes out on top against the other sales associates in total sales every quarter. As expected, this naturally feeds the horrible feedback loop with Karen and Jackie. When COVID hit, the company decided to cut all commission for sales associates. The commission was one of the main reasons why Amber endured Karen and Jackie's nonsense. While she only made slightly above the state's minimum wage, with the commission, she could double or even triple that amount on good days. According to her, no other retailer in the area offers this kind of system, and it's pretty unlikely that the company will reinstate it even after COVID ends. Along with the cut in wages, the store was also forced to decrease the amount of hours that they could offer to their associates. Karen took this as a way to essentially bar Amber from working at the store. While other associates were getting 8, 10 hours a week, Amber would see maybe 6 if she was lucky, and they would be during times of low customer traffic. Karen could get away with this because the district manager is also in her pocket. Along with the reduced hours and the removal of commissions, the store naturally had a mandatory mask policy for all employees and customers. Karen and her lackeys would often whine and complain about how unnecessary this was, because according to them, COVID is a hoax and wearing masks makes you subservient to the government. There were a few incidents where Karen would let people without masks into the store despite the state and company mandates. Amber refused to rock the boat, however, so when this would happen, she would go into the back of the store and stay as far away from these people as possible. During this period in time, a friend of the family and good friend of Amber's passed away due to complications from COVID. The funeral was set for a time when Amber was scheduled to work, so she called out that day. Karen and Jackie attacked Amber and the deceased, claiming that she must have caught the flu or been in bad health, and that Amber was feeding into the lie. Oh, how nice it must be to live such a privileged life. Not long after, a few of the store's loyal clients also passed away from COVID, and still Karen and Jackie, along with their groupies, maintained their narrative in the most vindictive way possible. Every time someone died, it must have been because of bad life choices or bad health. Never was it attributed to the global pandemic that was claiming thousands of people a day, according to Karen and her groupies. And always, when Amber decided to go to the services, she would hear snide remarks regarding how she was supporting a hoax. I guess sympathy is not really a thing for these people. Some of these customers were regulars who had been coming to that particular store for years, and still none of the groupies would relent on these points. Recently, the COVID restrictions have started to lift, and many of the clientele and employees have gotten their vaccines. This includes submitting paperwork to show that you have indeed obtained a vaccine or a note from a doctor explaining why you couldn't have one. Not Karen nor Jackie, though. To them, getting the vaccine would be like pumping poison into their veins. Instead, they decided to use fake COVID white cards with their information, effectively forging the documents. Amber, however, has suggested multiple times that they just get the vaccines because it is something that is mandated by the company. All employees must get vaccines when they are available, and given that almost all of the employees are above the age of 60, they have been eligible for the shots for months now. Recently, Amber had an emotional conversation directly with Karen, where she expressed her concern for her. I just want you and your family to be safe, so please get the vaccine. Karen responded with her normal snide attitude, of course. A few days later, however, Karen sent a text message mentioning that she had finally got the vaccine. She didn't. Amber replied that it was great, and she was happy for her. Karen just replied with a gif of some guy cursing. This was the beginning of the end for Amber. The incident. During one of her shifts, Amber overheard Karen and Jackie discussing how Amber was a witch and a sheep who bought the story about how Karen had taken the vaccine. During that same shift, Amber was working with a customer in the back, and some woman came into the store and stole a couple items of clothing, probably totaling out to be $100 at most. Now it's company policy that during all shifts, there always be at least 2 employees in the store, and during this particular stretch of time, Jackie was the only other person in the store. According to the video cameras, Jackie was up in the front of the store playing with her phone when this woman came in. Normally, if someone steals items from the store, the protocol is to avoid confronting them, and instead just call security after they've left the store. This is mainly to avoid lawsuits and to protect the employees should these people choose to get violent. It has happened in the past. That evening, Amber received a call from Karen telling her that she was on probation, pending an investigation for allowing this woman to steal from the store. Given the company's policy regarding theft, it really made no sense. It was at this point that Amber truly decided she had had enough. Eventually, this probation led to Amber's dismissal, and the official reasoning was fairly vague. The revenge. One thing that I forgot to mention a few years ago. Amber asked me to teach her how to record things on her phone, and luckily we live in a single consent state. As such, Amber had recordings of these women backstabbing her and gossiping about rather scandalous things dating back for years. She had gathered quite the collection because you never know when you need to cover yourself. Over the years, Amber has gone to no real avail, even with her recordings. Whether it be because they're also in the pocket of Karen or that they just don't care remains to be seen. The art department works directly under the district manager. Amber is also very good at keeping any paperwork and proof of these visits, including some recordings. She also recorded the call where she was fired. Amber has a ton of very loyal clients who were pretty distraught when they learned of her dismissal. One client in particular runs a column at one of the major newspapers for the nearby city. We will call her Casey. Since Amber was a part-time worker, she didn't really have much of a leg to stand on legally when it came to claiming a wrongful dismissal claim by legal means. However, that didn't mean that she didn't have any kind of recourse. She decided to attack the problem from multiple fronts. Amber compiled some of the greatest hits from her recording collection and had me email them off to the corporate offices of the company. Specifically, the CEO, CTO, and basically every member of the board of directors. I fired a couple bursts off to anyone who had any power that I could find. Along with those recordings, she wrote an email about how Karen, Jackie, and their group of sheep all refused to get vaccines and had falsified their vaccine documents to pass the company standards. Casey then put Amber in touch with a columnist for the newspaper, and they got copies of the recordings, the text messages, and the dismissal phone call. They also did an interview which was for an article and a TV slot on the local news. Amber discussed the commission cuts, clear favoritism, lack of any intervention by HAR, forged documents, company policy, the incident, etc. Basically anything relevant to paint these women in a terrible light. Among some of these recordings were bits of gossip that included conversations regarding Karen's various boyfriends over the years. She was married, and Amber also wrote an anonymous email to the husband that included some of these recordings. The fallout. Everything hit the fan pretty fast, as you can probably imagine. Karen, Jackie, the district manager, and a couple of the groupies were immediately fired and put under investigation for forging documents. While forging a vaccine card isn't really something too serious, it could lead to some pretty hefty fines. There is no specific law against forging the vaccine white cards, however, because the white cards contain the government seal. Well, you can just imagine how illegal that might be. Let's just say the FBI has stepped in on this one. One of the recordings featured Karen admitting to using forged cards. After the article and TV slot ran on the local news, the CEO reached out to Amber to formally apologize for the behavior of Hare, the district manager, Karen, and Jackie. She even went so far as to offer Amber a raise, but Amber declined because she found a job that actually paid a fair wage and let her work on her own time. The real kick of it for the CEO and the board was the fact that their employees were breaking the company policy for a store that exclusively catered to older women regarding a virus that tends to kill older people. They caught some heavy public backlash for this. Karen's husband seems to have separated from her after finding out about her infidelity. Whether or not this will lead to a divorce remains to be seen. The best part for Amber, many of her clients started coming to her new store, and again she's doing amazing as one of the best sales associates. Thanks for reading. I know this one was a bit long.
Edit. Thanks for all the support, guys. I didn't really expect this post to blow up as fast as it did.
I thought I would address a couple of the concerns that people have noted in the comment section. I know parts of the story seem far-fetched, but remember much of this has come through a second-hand account. Though I did listen to the recordings and help my mom with some of the revenge. Yeah, my mom is in her 70s and she still works. She does it for a few reasons. She's on a fixed income, and the extra income helps. And she likes to be active and enjoys working with customers. My brother and I do give her extra income, but she will only take so much because she's very prideful. She's also one of the most active people I know and has a more prolific social life than I or any of my friends' family members do. No, I won't link the article because it would break the community guidelines. My mom's name is in there, and so are a few of the people involved as well as the company itself. That said, you probably could find it on Google quickly enough. The contract my mother was under is classified as at-will employment. Basically, this means that the employer or the employee can terminate the contract at any time for any reasons outside of the usual suspects. Hate crimes, racial issues, etc. We did talk with a lawyer, and this particular aspect would make it difficult to fight the company and the termination since they gave such vague reasons for the firing. My mother also just didn't want to deal with a lengthy legal battle, just to get back at a few idiots. The manager had it out for my mom from the beginning. I think it was due to their differing political and social views. The way I worded things must have been vague regarding conversations in the recordings. With single consent laws, you can record a conversation if one party is aware of the recording. In this case, that party would be my mother. These women were so egotistical that they would often gossip about stuff right out on the store floor while talking with my mother as almost an aside. These recordings originally were for documenting all of the abuse that my mother endured. My mom was approached for a promotion multiple times while working for this company. She just didn't want the extra responsibility, nor did she want to work full-time. Instead, they did give her raises, but because the state was also raising their minimum wage for the past couple of years, these raises have become almost irrelevant. The FBI investigation is ongoing, and as some have mentioned, there could be jail time involved for some of these women. While that is indeed true, It's doubtful it will happen given that only Karen was recorded saying that she was using a forgery. I should also point out that I'm not sure how they obtained the forgery or whether or not they made them themselves. One thing I should also note is that my mom never really harbored any lasting ill will against Karen or Jackie, or really any of the others, until this past year. The reason was primarily because she could see that they had some kind of humanity in there. Obviously, even the Karens of the world have shades of gray, and my mom can be forgiving to a fault when it comes to people she has known for a long time. This is part of the reason why she attempted to try to reason with Karen regarding the vaccine, though when it comes to politically charged topics, people can become very bitter. And if I had to guess, this is why Karen took all of this so far this time around. Set the Waback machine to the year 2000. I'm living in a crappy apartment over a storefront, so parking was limited. Now, this was the middle of winter, and I didn't have a car at that period in my life, but my girlfriend at the time did. She was coming over in a couple hours and finding parking on the street as a gamble, so I wanted to dig out a parking spot for her out of the snowbank in the alley behind my building. I didn't own a snow shovel, so using a hammer, an old plastic ice cream bucket, and my bare hands, I dug out a chunk about 3 by 2 by 2 to make room for her to park. I don't know if you can appreciate how much snow that is, but it was a lot of work, especially considering my lack of proper equipment. This isn't fresh fallen snow either. This is a snowbank packed by a plow, practically ice. But whatever, we do crazy things for love, right? But apparently I had too much faith in humanity. I thought the cardboard sign I left in the newly cleared parking spot that said I spent an hour and a half digging this out for someone specific, please do not park here, would be enough. Nope. Wouldn't be writing this if it had been. Naturally, some jerk of a Lexus owner threw the sign in the dumpster and stole the spot. I hadn't told my girlfriend about my plan to dig out the parking spot, mostly because I didn't want to look like a wuss if it was too much work and I gave up. So I just stewed on it, imagining all the things I could do. My girlfriend ended up finding a spot on the street a block away, and we had a good evening anyway. She had to work the next day, so she took off around 2 a.m., and I stayed up until maybe around 4 a.m. The car was still there, and I was still pissed. By this time, all the bars were closed, the neighbors were asleep, and the streets were quiet. Couldn't ask for a better opportunity to ruin someone's crap. I went outside with a bottle of anhydrous isopropanol I kept around as a solvent, doused the car's tires, and set them on fire. I nabbed the cardboard sign from the dumpster and used it to quickly scrape the snow and cover my tracks, then took it back inside with me. No point leaving evidence behind. Over the course of the next few minutes, I heard bang, kapow, kapow, blam, blam, boom, boom. As the tires burst one by one, I had honestly expected the whole car to go up in flames, but each burst was apparently forceful enough to put out each individual tire, as well as blast out a sizable divot in the snowpack. Nothing happened until the next day, but police were eventually called. They were knocking on doors asking if anyone saw something. Nope, sorry. Must have slept right through it. Good luck, officer. Hope you catch the guy. I turned on my police scanner to keep tabs on things, mostly out of fear of getting caught. But there were no witnesses, and I learned the owner only had liability insurance. What kind of idiot buys a Lexus but not full coverage? I would soon find out. When I went outside to survey my handiwork under the guise of taking out the trash and being a curious resident, oh man, yeah, that guy was going to need to get his whole car resprayed. The car looked fine structurally, but I did probably more than $2,000 worth of cosmetic damage, not to mention needing 4 new tires. I also got to look at the guy who owned the car and the image I had created in my head of what a person would look like that would so unapologetically steal someone's hard work was completely accurate. He was a grade A first-class board, certified textbook douchebag, orange fake tan, way too much hair product, leather pants, weapons, grade dotchery, a decade before Jersey Shore was a thing. I regret nothing. Never saw that car again. Got away, scot-free. Edit. And as expected with every story, you get the legions of people trying to poke holes in it, saying things like alcohol doesn't burn hot enough, yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? Apparently it does, because we had a Lexus with 4 pop tires. I'm not sure if the tires actually caught fire, or if the heat of the flame just caused the pressure to go up to the point that the tires burst. All I know is I lit 4 tires on fire with 100 isopropyl alcohol, and 4 tires popped. If someone wants to do the math and figure it out, fine. Edit 2. To address some further comments, it was indeed a small bottle of isopropanol, no larger than 1 liter. It wasn't like I made sure to thoroughly saturate the tires. I was aiming to get in and out without getting caught. It was like blub, blub, move on to the next, blub, blub, move on to the next, etc. I smoked at the time, so I either lit the fires with cardboard matches or a simple cheap butane lighter. I don't remember which. But those were my main cigarette lighting tools, so it would have been one of those. I probably went with a butane lighter, But again, that's a detail I simply don't recall specifically. Again, I seriously thought the tires would catch fire and the whole car would end up torched. But for whatever reason, the 4 tires popped, and that plus some smoke damage and bubbled paint was the extent of it. I figured everyone would enjoy hearing more stories about my crazy mother. I was traveling down memory lane and remembered this gem from the time I was pregnant with my kid. It's not the worst thing she has done, but it ranks up there with bad things to do to your kids. I was around 5 months along by this point and already had the gender of the baby. We weren't into those fancy gender reveal parties. I texted everyone we knew the gender right after leaving that appointment. We went to the baby's daddy friend's mother's home for a visit. We'll call her Patty. She was very excited for us and begged us to let her be our child's fairy godmother, because she was into that whole fantasy and witch-type culture. I didn't see anything wrong with it, even if the baby's daddy was a little put off, but we agreed. Patty was very happy, and it felt nice to have a supportive person in my life that wasn't trying to control every little thing. Patty then offers to throw a baby shower for us. She admitted that she couldn't buy us extravagant gifts, but that she knew friends who had baby items they no longer needed, and that she would ask if we could have them. I didn't mind hand-me-downs. A lot of my kids' clothing was from the thrift store or Salvation Army for a long time. I was thrilled about the gifts. As long as they weren't broken, I happily accepted them. I got to work right away, making invitations in Photoshop, printed them out, and hand-wrote everyone's name that I wanted to invite. I even ordered special envelopes with mine, the baby's daddy, and the name we had picked out for our baby printed on them. I sent them out, made a Facebook post. I even said that gifts weren't a requirement. I just wanted to celebrate having a baby with my family. Patty had requested a few invitations to give out to her friends with the hand-me-downs, which I willingly gave. I was looking forward to the big day. I did ask everyone who wanted to come to please respond by a certain date, just so me and Patty could make sure to have enough food for everyone to eat. By the time the date arrived, no one in my family had responded back. Only Patty and her friends, plus the baby's daddy's friends, along with 2 friends of mine from my old job. I called my uncle and asked if he had gotten the invitation. He said that he didn't want to come because I was being cruel to my mom. I immediately called her. Here's how the conversation went. What? Hey, Nate, aren't you coming to the baby shower? Why would I bother stepping foot into that garbage place? For me? Because I'm having your grandbaby? Aren't you happy for me? Why would I be happy for you? You took my baby shower away from me. Why would I care what you do? Your baby shower? It's not about you. It's about me and the baby I'm having. I'm sure the baby's daddy likes to tell you that. I'm sure that ugly witch, Patty, is going to throw you a great party, but don't expect me or anyone in this family to be there. I hung up on her after that. The day of the baby shower, I was miserable, but tried to appear happy for the guests that did come. The baby's daddy and I got a lot of gifts, most of them secondhand, but we were happy regardless. We also got some money to help with a few expenses for when the baby is born. When the baby's daddy and I got back to his home that night and unloaded the car, I saw a text from Mom. She asked if I had been given any money. I immediately called her and asked her why she wanted to know. Because you have to pay rent. I wasn't living with Mom at this point and couldn't believe the audacity that she would be demanding rent when I didn't even live with her. No, Mom, I don't have to pay rent. I moved out 6 months ago. If you want rent money, hit up your other kids that do live with you. I'm sure Dave, brother, doesn't mind giving up smoking weed a month, and maybe Kate, sister, wouldn't mind cutting back on buying that latest Michael Kors bag. Mom shouted at me about how those 2 couldn't be bothered to help and that I was the only one who would. And why don't you have any money? I went to the casino. Are you going to give me the money for not? And it comes out, she only wanted more money to bloat the casino. I hate casinos. I hate scratch, offs, and the lottery. It's a money pit. After I took a deep breath, I told her, no, Mom, I will not be giving you any money to feed your addiction. If you had needed money for bills, you wouldn't have taken that money and lost it at the casino. Maybe if you live without hot water and electricity for the month, your other kids will want to chip in and you'll learn a lesson about being more careful with your finances. I hung up while she was mid-screaming. It felt good to get that over her. She ended up driving over to my place and banged on the door until we threatened to call the police. She ended up leaving and didn't talk to me until my kid was born. Backstory, when I was a 19 male, now 25 male, in college I had 3 assigned roommates. They didn't buy any of the necessities like food, toilet paper, cooking oil, cleaning supplies, paper towels, etc. I was buying pretty much everything, which I definitely couldn't afford, but I wanted to be nice. I said I was fine with them using my things as long as they replaced them. Whenever they used something up low and behold, they never replaced it, I'd just find it missing. They would start mentioning we were missing it and add we should get more. I would say then buy some then they'd change the subject. If they did buy something, they put it in their own room. I was being polite, but inside I was burning with a white-hot fury, infuriated beyond belief. So, pretty much a classic story of college dudes. I'm sure there are plenty of people who can relate here. Anyway, fast forward to an early morning class. I'm getting ready to leave, and my roommate is putting dishes in the dishwasher before he goes to class. The previous night, I told him he needed to start doing dishes because he constantly cooked and never cleaned. I was really happy to see it was getting done. He was also getting ready for class. I was grabbing a bite to eat when he said we need more dishwasher pods. I said, buy them. He paused, then said dish soap would work, also mine. I told him not to and just buy the damn pods. He said to believe him, and it would work. He proceeded to fill the cap, started it, and went to shower for class. I proceeded to end the cycle and dump about a cup or more of dishwasher detergent in out of spite, then started again. I went to class munching on a bagel, excited for the text he might send. It felt good to think of what he'd find after the shower. Went to class, and 40 minutes later, yes, he showered for 40 minutes every day. I got a Snapchat of our apartment, and I swear to God, read it. There was suds everywhere. It was awesome. We could have hosted a bubble run or a nightclub with den bubbles in that apartment. Wish I still had the photo. It was insane. I didn't realize how many bubbles could be made from one dishwasher. I mean, I anticipated a lot, but it was way more. It was so much, it was up to his chest. He had to cancel going to class to clean it and then bought pods. I still laugh about his reaction. He said, holy shit, I really didn't think it would be that bad. I'd add in, yeah, man, I really thought that was going to work. Would have been a great life hack to not buy pods. He apologized. Started pitching in more with things. I, 16-year-old female, was put into a group of girls to do a project on the nullification crisis. There was me, Kelly, Brianna, and Amanda, all 16, all fake names. Kelly immediately took a leadership role and started assigning us jobs to do. I was assigned slide 1 and 2, Amanda slide 4, and Brianna on the pictures and sources. Kelly didn't assign herself anything, though. I shrugged it off and did my slides. I told her, and she immodestly complained about me plagiarizing and told me to do it again. I hadn't plagiarized. I told her that, and she blew up. Just redo the slides. The teacher will check it with AI and we'll all fail. I don't think the teacher would put anywhere near that much effort for our entire class of 24, but okay. I redid them. She smirked and went to the teacher to tell her we were done. She came back, looked me dead in the eyes, and said that we're not done. We need to do another slide linking to the Civil War. Also, she mentioned plagiarizing. Fix it. Fix it. I was stunned and my patience was running low. Can you help me on this slide, Kelly? You haven't done much work so far, so I figured that you could help me a little. What? Kelly exploded. We have all done equal work here. Kelly, tell me what you have done. Because I did slide 1, 2, and 3. Amanda did slide 4, and Brianna did pictures and sources. What did you do? I wish I was kidding when I say this is the response she gave me. I created the slides. You want a medal? Anyone could have done that. Everyone here has done equal work. I created the slides and linked 3 videos. Those 3 videos weren't on the rubric. They weren't necessary. I don't see the issue. Can't you just help me on the slide? No. It's your job. The bell rang and ended the argument, but I was still salty and pissed. So what did I do? I tattled. I know it's low, but I wanted her to get a low grade. The next day she comes running into the classroom to the group. Oh my God. Guys, we got AD. We need to step up our game next time. What do you mean? Amanda asked. Yeah, I got in. Brianna also added. Kelly was stunned, and I had the biggest smile on my face.